Let's get it, baby. Episode 17 on a Thursday. MMA Gossip, back in your life. Me, Matt, Mike, the usual. I'm going to say it every fucking time, so please do it. Like, comment, and subscribe. We got another subscriber today from yesterday. We're up to 33 already, which is awesome. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Anywhere you get podcasts, we're there. So give us a like there, comment. Whether you love or hate us, comment, give us a thumbs down. I don't give a shit. Interaction is interaction, baby. Help the boys out. We really appreciate it when you do. But anyways, we're going to be reviewing UFC Yaz Island 1, Kattar versus Ige, and then we're going to be looking forward to Figueiredo versus Benavidez, UFC Yaz Island 2. And it's really 3. It's throwing me off because of 251. But with that being said, Mike, let's get this money, baby.
All right, let's get right into this. First up, we had Jack Shore do exactly what he was supposed to do and submit Aaron Phillips in, I believe, with the second round. Look forward to what he has to do next. Up next, Diana Belbita fucked all of us, probably the entire gambling world, and just has zero fight IQ and got submitted in the second round to Liana Jojua. So looking forward to fade her in the future. Up next, Chris Fishgold. This one was interesting. So my take on this one is Chris Fishgold is officially a fraud. Matt, what do you think?
Bro, this guy fucking sucks. Like, he came in here, he came into the UFC with some decent hype behind him, and he's done nothing but just be terrible, dude. And for somebody that has, sorry, I'm actually just trying to pull up the exact number because I want to be accurate. For somebody that has 72% of his wins by submission, Jared Gordon made him look like he's never grappled a day in his life. Like, he won 30-26, I think, on all 3 scorecards. And I mean, not to take away from what Jared Gordon did, I thought he's looked the best he ever has. But at the end of the day, it's Jared Gordon, and you're losing 30-26 on 3 scorecards. It's off to Bellator for him. It didn't work out at all. The guy, he just sucks. Chris, if you got anything, go ahead.
Yeah, man. I mean, he was definitely the bigger guy in there. He missed weight. And you'd think with all those submission wins, he has a grappling advantage. He's an ex-155er from Cage Warriors. And he had one guillotine. It looked like an arm-in guillotine. Not that it looked like he had it, but it was, it was fairly tight. And aside from that, that was about 20 seconds of him having the upper hand, and that's about it. Jared Gordon, props to him. He went through a lot. He talked about it after the fight. His wife, coaches, corners, all having COVID. Paul Felder hopping in to corner him. Yeah, man, props to him. I don't want to take away from Jared Gordon by putting down Chris Fishgold, so I'm going to do both. Props to Jared Gordon, Chris Fishgold. You had hype, and it was undeserved. I don't even know if that's a word, undeserved. There we go. And, yeah, sorry, bud.
Yeah, that was a wrap. Poor performance by Fishgold. I don't know if he'll even fight in the UFC again. I'd be surprised. But up next, Modestas Bukauskas has a somewhat controversial, I didn't think it was, win over Andreas Michailidis. Yeah, let's just talk about this real quick. Did you guys think that it should have been stopped? Do you think the elbows were justified, Matt?
Well, I was fucking pumped because I had Bukauskas every which way, and I had the under. So the further he fell out that octagon door, the better for me, man. I was pumped. In all seriousness, and one of my buddies I was watching the fight with would vouch. Before I saw anything on Twitter, I deleted Twitter, but before I saw anything, as they were cutting to commercial, I saw him not be able to get up, and the ref start to ask if he was okay. And I said to him, I was like, "Yo, they might stop this." Like, he couldn't fucking get up. I get back in the fight, I was so hyped. I was so pumped. Huge hit. And what I found really interesting is if you guys, for those of you that pay attention to betting lines, Bukauskas was well over minus 200 at a point, and this line closed basically even. So Michailidis got hammered by the sharps right before this fight started. And usually when you see that happen, it's a horrible sign for the current favorite, and Bukauskas still went in there and did the damn thing. Chris, what'd you think?
Well, first of all, me getting away from here, my beard looks so musty on this thing right now. But anyway, he looked good. I thought that stoppage was totally justified. You could even see, like they said after the fight, the swelling was in a spot that's totally legal. So I have no problem with it. I do what Bisping said. Bisping called that 2AT. I think that he didn't realize that the cage door is behind him. But even if the cage door being open behind him, even if it was closed, leaning back and sitting there when the ref's telling you to get up, I think they would have stopped it regardless. Real bad body language. So props to Bukowskis.
I have a controversial theory. I think like he at the end of the round he thought maybe he can get away with a DQ win possibly because those elbows were close. I thought they were totally clean, just saying, but they were close, and he thinks that he can gotta get the DQ win. And I gotta say, man, in all his other fights, he's like shredded. He looked like a dad bod in this fight, man. He was like looking bad. So I don't know, maybe he was trying to get out of there quick with a win, but wasn't a good look. And props to Modestus. Looking forward to see what he's got next. Up next, we had Lerone Murphy having an absolutely dominant performance over Ricardo Ramos. Matt.
So shout out to the Guru for changing my opinion on this fight because I actually locked Ramos into my picks. And honestly, if I had to do it, I'd probably do it again. I just didn't have a good read on this fight. I thought he'd have a grappling advantage, which for a hot second it did look like that. But Murphy just fucking blasted him, man. He did exactly what the Guru said he was going to do, and he changed his pick because of it. And because of that, I ended up tossing Murphy in a couple more parlays. I hedged with Ramos, but Murphy looked good, man. He looked really good. He looked sharp. He fended off Ramos is still the better grappler. There's no question about that, but fended off the submissions, got it back to where the fight suits him best, and finished the fight. The underhit on that too, which was awesome. Chris, what are you thinking?
Dude, I don't know what I almost just said Davi Ramos. I got the next card in my head already. But Ricardo Ramos I don't know what he was going for with that reverse, like that leg kick from like you know what I'm talking about? His back leg kick. That was so stupid. I remember seeing Conor McGregor do that back. Well, I didn't watch it live, but when Conor McGregor was in Cage Warriors, he did that. There's a lot of highlights of him doing that. I don't know. He kept going back to the well way too many times with that. But you're thanking the Guru for taking Lerone Murphy. I'm thanking Mike for taking Lerone Murphy because Mike called out in the last podcast, totally switched my opinion. After the podcast, I went back, watched, I had watched the Tukagov fight, obviously live, and then I rewatched it, and he changed my opinion. Murphy was in my parlay that Molly McCann fucking ruined. Fuck her. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. But don't clip that. But anyway, he looked really good. He looked really good. I'm going to stop rambling. He just looked really good.
Yeah, he looked awesome. Nothing to say. The ground and pound was real. Real.
For real.
Next fight, Khamzat Chimaev did exactly what he was supposed to do. He looks like Khabib's evil twin. Went out there and just ragdolled John Phillips. Props to John Phillips for being as tough as they come. The referee was telling him to move, he kept moving because he was just eating shots the whole time. The significant strike differential was absolutely absurd. But he did exactly what he was supposed to do. I look forward to see what he has next.
Dude, I'm going to hop in real quick right there, Mike. People online saying that it's like Khabib 2.0 because he's more active. I'm like, dude, he fought John fucking Phillips. John Phillips is not UFC caliber at all. Not that I'm taking anything away from Khamzat. He looked fantastic. The first round should have been a 10-7, but chill.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. Chill.
Absolutely right.
That's it. Chill.
Up next, huge dog, my dog, Munir Lazzez, puts on an awesome, unbelievable, arguably 30-27 win over Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and I'm just stoked about it. Matt.
Dude, so I'll give props to the both of you on this one because, Mike, you started to change my mind. And then I looked a little bit deeper on this fight. I said, these guys are two stand-up guys. Hassan really hasn't fought anybody either. I said from the beginning, I thought he was going to win, but the line was completely undeserving in my opinion. And the only thing that pissed me off about these fights was that one of these idiots couldn't just get a fucking finish. That's besides the point. Anyway, Lazzez looked really good, man. He weathered an early storm for Hassan. Hassan just coming out throwing bombs like he always does. But then Lazzez just controlled the pace of the fight, man. He looked great. He even worked in some takedowns. And then the third round came, and you just saw some really shitty fight IQ from Hassan. You only knock people out. That's what you do. You're down 2-0 on the scorecards. I thought he was down 2-0 on the scorecards, and so did two judges. And he comes out in the third, and he's up against a cage trying to get the fight to the ground. I just thought it was poor fight IQ. You were already getting out-grappled in previous rounds. I know I'll be fading him from here on out. Props to Lazzez and props to Mike. I'm pumped he finally hit an underdog. He needed it. Chris.
Well, courtesy of Mike Bond, MMA Junkie, this card is the second card ever in UFC history not to have a knockdown on the entire card. And this fight, I would bet money that there was going to be a knockdown, and Matt did bet money that there was going to be a finish. So both these guys have, I tweeted last night, hands and chins. That was crazy. The first round, like, Al-Hassan won, I would say, 2 minutes of the first round. The first 2 minutes of the first round were dominant for him. And then I think that Lazzez controlled the last 3 minutes enough to win the round. Second round was all Lazzez, and third round, the wrestling. Like, that just turned into a wrestling match. But the first 2 rounds were absolutely insane. It would have been fight of the night if Al-Hassan didn't miss weight. So Lazzez got that well-deserved performance bonus and 50 grand. Calls out that idiot Mike Perry. I think it was a great call out, even though we don't know what the fuck's going on with Perry. He's probably not going to fight right now. But love to see what Lazzez has got. I didn't realize he was teammates with Darren Till, so that could be something that develops. Maybe we'll get the rub. We'll see.
Yeah, one last thing unrelated to either fighter. That referee needs to go. He was talking about advanced position. The guy was in side control. He was in side control. And then one moment he was mounted, but his head was caught in like a guillotine choke. But obviously you're not gonna tap somebody in a guillotine choke when the person's in mount. And the guy's like, advanced position, advanced. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You can't advance mount. It's the most dominant position in MMA. Get that guy out of there. I was pissing me off. The commentators were all on top of that too. It was absurd.
I was pumped about it. I agreed with it. Stand them up, let them bet.
Shut up, you casual. Oh my God.
No, Mike, I had the fucking under.
Oh my God. By the way, Matt sometimes speaks with his wallet and not his brain. I'm sure you picked up on that by now if you're a continual watcher. But up next, oh my God, Molly. You literally look like a meatball out there just like rolling around looking like shit. Molly McCann got beat up by Tyler Santos. Matt.
I wish I didn't change my pick. I gave you guys Santos on the podcast, and then like the Guru was on McCann, and then Mike was on him, and I got swayed the other way, and I knew I should have. And then I started reading shit online, and it was like everyone was saying the same thing. Santos is literally better everywhere, but we're going to get bet on Molly because she's a dog. Like, McCann wasn't better in striking, wasn't better a wrestler, wasn't better on the ground. Literally nowhere. I knew that going in. I know she sucks, and I still I ruined like 4 parlays with this one. Some of these female fights, man, you just can't get a read on them sometimes. It's not sexist when it's true. When you have Balbita throwing bombs away and then all of a sudden she decides to grapple for fucking, I don't know what reason, like it just screwed me on two fights on this card and big swing. Chris, you did take it. I'm still aggravated.
Yeah, I mean, I listened back to our last podcast, and I literally said, if this goes to a decision, Molly McCann isn't going to win. I think that Santos is going to use her reach advantage to her advantage, maybe sneak submissions in there and be more dominant for 3 rounds. Literally exactly what happened, and I bet on Molly McCann. So Molly McCann, and I also said that Molly McCann's a decisionator and that this decision was going to go against her, and literally – like, if I was spot on any fight ever on this podcast, it was this one, and I bet against my own words. I'm at a loss for words. I'm pissed. I'm laughing like out of anger.
Yeah, man. So hindsight is a bitch, man. And
Dude.
Another thing I was thinking, like, we all know Belbita was whooping her ass for like the first minute or so on the feet, and it just makes me think, like, if I didn't know anything about mixed martial arts, I didn't know it was a sport, I know nothing about fighting, and I go into the street and I get into a street fight randomly, and I'm beating the shit out of this person standing up, like whooping their ass. Am I going to go for a takedown? No, I'm winning. Why would I go for a takedown whooping their ass? I don't know. It was just like absolutely the worst fight IQ I've ever seen. And there's so many fighters with bad fight IQ. Don't even know where to begin. Yeah, let's take her down and go into her strong suit, which is jiu-jitsu. Come on.
And then get finished by the only submission that she gets off.
The only one Jojo gets is an armbar.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, Jimmy Rivera puts on, I would say, a clinic against Stamen. Matt.
Fuck yeah, man. I hope I see Rivera in the town deli at some point over these next couple weeks. I was so pumped to see the Jersey boy get back at it. He looks so good, and I said it about 5 times during this fight. His takedown defense is incredible. There were so many times there were 2 or 3 times probably where Stammen was really deep on a single in the middle of the octagon, and Rivera still managed to get his back to his cage, fend it off, turn around, switch the position, get back to the striking. He looked so good. He looked focused, and I don't think we saw the best Cody. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Again, as I mentioned on Tuesday, I don't like these fighters right now taking fights on, every fucking 3 weeks. He never got into his flow. He realized he wasn't getting Rivera to the ground, and then he was like, fuck, I actually have to stand and bang with this guy. Rivera cracks. I think Rivera tagged him a couple times, and he was just kind of bouncing around on the outside and just really never hit his stride. And you know what? Props to Rivera for doing the thing, 30-27 on 2, 29-28 on another. Pumped to see him back in the win column. Chris?
Yeah, I think that goes for both of them, what you just said. I do agree. I don't think that was the best Cody, but I don't think that was the best Jimmy either. I think Jimmy has a little bit more to offer. I mean, he looked good. Don't get me wrong. It was 30-27 on 2 scorecards at least, maybe 3. But anyway, Jimmy said it himself in the middle of the 3rd round. I didn't say Jimmy looked tired. He just looked a little flat-footed compared to what he usually does. And then after the fight, he actually said, he's like, only cutting to 45, A, and B, that's only taking the fight, I think, on less than 10 days' notice, and having to go to Abu Dhabi and quarantine the whole 9 really affected his cardio. So, I mean, that was, like we said, it was a bantamweight fight at 145. That fight at 135 in a full training camp, I don't think would go any other way but exactly how that fight played out, with all that being said. But yeah, I'm happy for Jimmy too, man. Jersey boy, fucking, he got it done. I love his new tattoo. He's got the full sleeve done, looking good out there. And he had he shouted out Susie also, the makeup artist for the UFC dealing with cancer. It's like good performance from him all around. On the mic, in the octagon, good for him. Happy for Jimmy.
Yeah, I just predicted this one totally wrong. This is probably my besides Belbita. Let's not talk about that anymore. This is my biggest loss on the card, but Jimmy's just absolutely beat him very, very handily. So mad props. Up next, we really don't have to touch this one that much. It was kind of a shitty fight. I heard Ariel Helwani talking about this fight, saying, "Oh, it's exciting. The flyweights are exciting." Like, yeah, the flyweights are exciting, but this fight sucks. Like, there's no getting around it. Benoit had not zero, but not nearly enough volume against Elliott, and Elliott's just throwing pillow punches, pillow kicks the whole time. That's it, Matt.
Yeah, man. Like, I understand. I know Dana White got on his live and was saying, people that think that Benoit won, no, he didn't. I'm biased. I had Benoit in a lot of fucking parlays, but to me, Elliott did nothing of substance. If you so he had 20 leg kicks out of 20, he landed 20 out of 29. Benoit landed 3 out of 3. Just take away those leg kicks, and I am going to take them away because to me, they didn't do any damage to Benoit. It didn't hinder him at fucking all. He was just flicking him out there. You take away those, his total strikes with Benoit are basically even. Anything of substance was landed by Benoit. Every time he hit Elliott, you could tell Elliott didn't like it. He was 1 for 13 on his takedown attempts. 1 for 13. Benoit was 1 for 2. And I thought they both had 2 submission attempts. I thought Benoit's was clearly the most most serious one out of all of them, with that knee bar where Ellie was literally on his back, clearly screaming, clearly grimacing. Like, I just don't know what these judges are watching sometimes. I guess if you're watching kickboxing, yeah, Tim Elliott won the fight. He just kept fucking flicking front kicks and flicking leg kicks for 3 rounds. But this is MMA, but he mixed it up better. He handled the grappling exchanges a lot better. I don't know, man. There gets to a point where I'm tired of it, and I'm tired of fucking Tim Elliott. He does the same shit every fight. He sucks. He's 17-11. There's no reason he should be co-main on this card. That should be Rivera and Stammen all day. Get over it. He handled DJ for like a round, like 20 years ago. Get this guy the hell out of here, Chris.
Yeah, man. Tim, I'll give it to him. I guess he did look a little bit better. I know he's working with James Krause now, so he did look a little bit better. I forget now. It was fucking yesterday, so it's too hard for me to remember. But anyway, I think I had it 1-1 going into the 3rd round. Personally, I texted you guys that last night, and I guess Tim Elliott won the 3rd just straight off of activity. Just to play devil's advocate to Matt here, I think, like you said, even though he's just flicking leg kicks and doing this and that, Benoit was just accepting it. There was some pretty good transitions, I must say. Also, to play devil's advocate to you, Mike. Do I think this fight was exciting? Absolutely not. But it was cool to see Benoit mix in that Renzo Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in there. A couple pretty cool back take. That was pretty fucking awesome. But other than that, fight was kind of boring. again, I think what Matt's getting at is what we were saying the other day, overall scoring. I think that Benoit might have won the fight, but based on the criteria we have in front of us, Elliott won the match.
Yeah, I said at the end of the second round, I texted you guys. I was like, Benoit's not doing enough volume, man. Referees are going to see this a different way. I'm telling you, and that's exactly what happened. Like, I agree with you, Matt. Like, if it's a fight and Benoit was landing the harder shots, clearly, and it just bothers me when Elliott's going like this the whole time, throwing his jab out like that, just so that and Benoit, it's not even like it's like 10 inches away from Benoit's face every single time.
It's in front kicking air.
Yeah, he throws a leg kick, and his big toe hits like the back of his shin. It's just like ridiculous. Go ahead, Chris.
Also, if I want some better fight IQ in Benoit's end, that third round would have been pretty nice, right? When Tim Elliott was clearly dealing with an issue with his left hand. If I'm Benoit, I am throwing hooks on hooks on hooks. Even if they're not landing, you're trying to steal that third round back.
Yeah, and Elliott said after the fight that these two fingers were making like a Y. I guess they were dislocated. He said he felt fine after. But I did want to mention post-fight, like Matt said, Dana White went live on IG to say that Elliott won. And Dana White also said in verbatim, MMA Gossip, check him out. Granted, I did type that in the chat, but he did say that. So
Dana White doesn't say things he doesn't believe in.
Dana White would never lie.
Never lies. Never. All right, baby. Main event. Calvin Kattar did what he's supposed to do. We all called it. I mean, I love Ige, but, we all called it. Just beat him. He got a little hairy there with his nose. It looked like it definitely affected him in that second round when it started bleeding immensely after a couple crisp shots from Ige to the face. But Kattar showed why he is upper echelon, deserved of maybe a title shot after one more fight. Like, he's awesome. Matt.
I was impressed with Kattar, but I will say I was still more impressed with the Jeremy Stephens fight. Maybe, the commentator said it, maybe he just approached this differently knowing he was going 5 rounds, but there was a lot of times where, granted, I did bet on him, so I was biased, but I was just calling for more volume in certain rounds. Like, it felt like he was a little slow, but in the end, he was just ended up being more calculated. He was picking his shots a lot better. Ige started to wear, I'd probably say halfway through the third, you saw that pressure start to wear off. That pressure from Ige that everybody knows just wasn't there anymore. And Kattar you saw him start to pull away and really just start sniping, man. It's what he does. His boxing is as crisp as it gets. It's as crisp as it gets in that division, in my opinion. I think he's truly got the best pure boxing skills. And, yeah, man, he looked fucking great. But I still think he did look a little bit better against Steve. Obviously, it's easy to say. You put an elbow in Stephens' jaw, and Stephens is still sleeping. But I'm pumped to see what's next for him. I wouldn't give him a title shot right away after this. I'm booking him. I said it the other day. I'm giving him Zabit in a 5-round main event. Winner gets a title shot, or I'm giving him I guess it depends on who gets the title shot next. It's either going to be Zabit or Korean Zombie. Whoever it isn't should get Kattar. Chris?
Yeah, so I don't know what the deal is. What the hell's going on with Zabit and Yair and then Zombie and Ortega? I don't know what's going on with that saga right now, but I personally want to see Zombie, fight for the title, selfishly, but I think he deserves it the most, in my opinion. He's a finisher. You know what I mean? He's ever since he's been back, he's been on a fucking streak. I think another good matchup just to throw out there would be Holloway now. Kattar versus Holloway. If you beat Holloway, you get I don't know what world. If you beat Holloway, you have to fight for the title, right? I think that's a good fight for Holloway now because he's not going to fight Volkanovski again. Kattar's 6, and he just solidified his position. Another good fight for Kattar would have been Josh Emmett. Emmett's obviously out for a while. So yeah, I like Matt's ideas. I think there's a lot you could do with Kattar. He's a beast. He looked good to second what you said, Mike, with his nose. It got hairy, I think, in the second round. Like, end of the first round, it was like, Kattar's got this. End of the second round, I was like, oh, shit. And then that was the only round I did score for Ige. And, yeah, man, Kattar looked good. Props to him. Number 6, I feel like he can only go up because he fought down his last 2 fights. So he's due, man. He's due. Dana, help the man. Get that fucking guy in UFC 4. And get him a blue check mark on Twitter.
It's so crazy to me sometimes. I see these guys on Twitter that just aren't verified yet. And then I'm like, what in the fuck, dude? Like,
yeah. Yeah, impressive performance. He's got that, like, aura around him where it's just like, you're going to have to beat the fuck out of him to beat him. And I like those kind of fighters, man. Those fighters, like the dig deep fighters that come back after adversity, make mid-fight adjustments, mid-round, even mid-round adjustments. Those are upper echelon fighters for like the rest of their career, And
Sorry, I didn't mean to keep harping on this. I meant to say when it was my turn. But another thing I was really impressed with Cater is anytime that Ige wanted to mix it up and mix in wrestling, 0 for 9 on takedown attempts, man. That's huge. That's really big.
Yeah, his wasn't
he's
even
a legit wrestler, and he's got a fucking black belt. He's Division III college wrestler. Could not get the fight to the ground. I think Cater landed a takedown of his own, actually, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure. I think he was 1 for 1 on his takedown attempts, but huge sign that he was able to do that for 5 rounds.
Absolutely. All right, now diving right into Figueiredo versus Benavidez, Fight Island 2. All right, a lot of like matchups in here that are definitely not that interesting, but there's definitely a lot more recognizable names on this card than there were in previous fight cards. So let's get right into this. We have Sergey Spivak going up against Carlos Felipe, UFC newcomer, 8-0. Matt.
I mean, there's not much to be said here, guys. At first glance, just because Spivak is horrible, I was going to take him, and I literally just couldn't find anything on Carlos Felipe. I mean, Spivak beat Tai Tuivasa, which honestly means nothing to me. He was in there, Walt Harris, so I guess I would take him. Just don't bet this fucking fight, guys. Like, this is the bottom of the barrel. Chris.
I don't have too much to add to that. Aside the fact that, oh man, I could go off on Sergey Spivak, but I think I'm gonna restrain myself. He's 10-2, I believe. His 2 losses are in the UFC. He fought 7 nobodies and got to the UFC and is 1-2 in the UFC. Lost to Marcin Tybura. Man, he's 25 years old, so I guess he has room. I always say whenever you're that young, you have room to improve. But with his style, it's just a fat heavyweight matchup. I got nothing, dude. I guess I'll pick him to win.
Did you call him a fat heavyweight?
Like a fat heavyweight that just does nothing. Like, you know what I mean? He has nothing special about him. Where like Cain Velasquez wasn't a fat heavyweight. Stipe is not a fat heavyweight. He's a fat heavyweight that just. Marcin Tybura is a fat heavyweight. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. It's just funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't get on the right side of Spivak. I was on him against Tybura, purely off the fact that Tybura was like 3 out of his last 4 losses were KOs. But I don't know. And I was on Spivak in his next fight and as well. Was his last fight? It wasn't Tybura, right? It was someone else.
No, it was Tybura.
It was Tybura. Okay, so I was I can't figure him out. Don't think he's going to be anything special. I don't think this Carlos guy's going to be anything special. So I don't know. I'd rather just like wait until this fight is over to turn on the fight card, if I'm being totally honest. Anyway, up next, 2 recognizable names for sure. Davi Ramos, sizable dog here, I think, against a -210, -220 Arman Tsarukyan. Matt.
I'm all over Tsarukyan in this fight, guys. So I went back, ran through a couple recent fights, and the one that stood out to me again, MMA math never makes sense, but Makhachev beat the living fucking brakes off Ramos. He won 30-26 on all 3 scorecards. Tsarukyan impressed against him. He didn't win the fight, but he looked a lot more capable in there. He hung with him in all the grappling exchanges. I don't know, man. I'm pretty high on this guy. He fights well everywhere. He's got 5 wins by TKO/KO, 5 by sub, so he could clearly take the fight anywhere that he wants. He's probably the better wrestler. Ramos is definitely more capable on the ground, but he just doesn't excel on the feet. He plods and throws bombs. And Arman trained at Tiger Muay Thai for a bit, so his stand-up's legit. And we've seen Ramos have gas tank issues. So I think it's going to be a long night for him. And, he's -2-1 for a reason. So I'm all over Tsarukyan in this early fight, and let's see what happens. Chris?
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt, on that. I'm big on Arman as well. He's definitely way more capable on the feet, to second what you said, and he can hang on the ground. He lost to Islam Makhachev, like you just said. But I think, and then he rebounded against OAM in his last fight, and OAM can grapple too. OAM's pretty well rounded. I mean, he's not upper echelon of the division, but he's pretty fair. He's fairly well rounded as well, and he handled him, so that was impressive. Where Davi Ramos, dude, this guy's medaling at Worlds, at ADCC. I think he has a medal also, so he's legit as fuck. He's just one of those, but he's another one of those jiu-jitsu guys that came over to MMA and just wasn't. Not that he's not successful. I don't want to take anything away from him, but he's not an upper echelon guy where I think Arman can actually go places. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think Arman's got this one.
I also think it's pretty clear that the UFC is making this matchup for Arman to win. And, coming into the UFC and your first fight is Islam Makhachev, dude, welcome to the UFC. You know what I'm saying? And he actually, looked really impressive, man. And in this particular case, Matt, I'm going to say that MMA math does count because, the different Islam destroyed Ramos, and then Sarukian had a great showing. So in this case, I do think it's a little bit different.
Right.
Watch Sarukian go get destroyed out there. Watch.
Who was Ramos minus 1,100 against? Gunther, I think. It was one of the biggest favorites.
I don't know.
One of his earlier fights in the UFC was minus 1,100.
I don't think he should ever be a minus 1,100. But needless to say, I'm on Sarukian. He's more well-rounded. Anywhere the fight goes, he has the advantage, in my opinion. Up next, two new guys, the UFC. I got Malcolm Gordon, flyweight, 12-3, going up against Amir Albazi, 12-1. Matt.
I think Albazi's taking this fight on 6 days' notice. Former Bellator guy. Both of their wins have come by sub. This is pretty low level. Both UFC debuts, if I'm correct. I think I'm going to go with Albazi just because he's probably seen better competition in Bellator. Again, I really don't know much about both these guys aside from what I've read today, what I was able to find clips of. But again, they were highlights. I couldn't find full fights. And who's putting shitty highlights in a highlight reel, So it's hard. It's just one of those fights, guys, I would stay away from. Maybe if you toss a submission bet in there because that seems to be where both guys win their fights, just the general fight ends in submission potentially. But, yeah, I'm going to go with Albazi just because he fought in Bellator and probably beat better guys. Chris?
Yeah, I honestly got really nothing to add. I'm not going to try to put on a front here like I do. After reading over them, I'm the local Bellator fucking MMA Gossip, biggest Bellator fan here. And, whenever I see a guy compete in Bellator, especially a little earlier, I usually favor them. So I'm going to ride with Albazi on this one as well.
I'm going to do –
I was
full disclosure, I don't know much about these guys at all. But between now and Saturday, I'm going to do a lot of fight tape on all the fights. And if I do see something with these two guys that I want to make as part of my picks or dogs or locks, I'll do it for Saturday. But as of right now, it's a stay away completely. Two UFC newcomers, it's volatile. You never really know what's going to happen. Speaking of, the last card was very volatile with the upsets. So, stay away for now and then just tune in for Saturday. Up next, okay, this one's fun. We've got Brett Johns, been around for a minute, going up against the ever rising, ever impressive Montel Jackson. Big dude, Matt.
I'm going with Montel Jackson here. I know you guys were both talking earlier about Johns, and I was talking to Mike before Chris hopped on, and I was saying how I think Johns has a clear advantage somewhere, but his fight IQ is just the demise of him. If he wanted to go in there and implement his wrestling and his grappling, I would definitely favor him. But I caught him in a interview saying that he wants to fight Montel Jackson in a phone booth, which to me is the complete opposite of what he should be doing in this fight. Jackson's bigger, he's longer, and I think that phone booth door is going to be shut the whole fight. I don't think he'll be able to get inside on Jackson if that's his plan. And, as long as Jackson could utilize that reach and everything, I think he should be fine to just snipe from the outside. We've seen Johns have pretty shitty striking defense. Munoz dropped them with a body kick, dropped them with leg kicks. And as long as Jackson can utilize all of his mix up his striking and just stay on the outside. And honestly, if there's a little grappling involved, I think Jackson can hang. I mean, he had a slick Darce against Brian Kelleher way back when. So we'll see what happens. I'm definitely going with the bigger, in my opinion, better Montel Jackson. Chris?
Yeah, this is one of the ones I was torn on because I'm a Brett Johns fan. His calf slicer against Joe Soto, I believe, that was sick, dude. And that was early in the fight, right? If I'm remembering this correctly, that was early in the fight, and he looked. That was awesome. He comes to fight like he's fought Aljo, he's fought good competition. Granted he's lost those fights, but he's been in there with those guys, and I really, really, really want to pick him. But I know Montel Jackson was a whatchamacallit, Contender Series vet. And they're trying to push those guys. He's got some good wins. I think his only UFC loss is to Ricky Simone, right? And Ricky's come out and looked pretty good for himself. Like what Matt said, I don't think that it would be smart for Brett Johns to try to stay and bang with him. I think his advantage would be on the ground, but I don't know if he's going to get it there. And with that being said, I think I'm going to ride with Montel Jackson on this one. I'm sure my underdog will be Brett Johns, just as a little asterisk there, just a little heads up. But usually when I pick against myself, I don't do too well. My gut right now is telling me Montel Jackson.
Yeah, I was on Brett Johns in his last fight against Tony Gravely. He was a pretty sizable underdog in that fight, and I'm pumped I picked him because he ran through Gravely pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, like he's significantly smaller. I think Montel is significantly more athletic, stronger, bigger. Everywhere the fight takes place, like I think he's just his strength and ferociousness is just gonna be a little bit too much. There is a chance that he gasses Montel Jackson if he because Brett Johns is tough as fuck, man. He's tough as they come, and if you hit him with your hardest punch and Brett Johns stays there, like it could be a little demoralizing, like as we saw with the Al Hassan fight the other night. So I think Brett Johns is definitely a live dog. But I am leaning Montel Jackson. I think he at least wins the first 2 rounds. And if he gasses, I don't think Brett Johns is going to finish him in the third. So I think I'm leaning Montel Jackson as well. All right, up next, Conor McGregor's first L, Joe Duffy, going up against Joel Alvarez. Matt.
And now we're to my underdog of the night. I'm taking Alvarez here, man. I don't understand why Joe Duffy's minus 400. I know he's on a 2-fight skid, losing to Vic and DeCasey. And if anything, that Vic loss just looks worse and worse by the minute. Duffy's definitely the better boxer. But surprisingly, 63% of his wins have come by sub, 10 out of 16 of them. Alvarez clearly wants to grapple, 14 of his 16 wins by sub, 88%. He got beaten up bad, Alvarez, in his first fight against Ismagulov. I don't know, man. I can't get myself to lay minus 400 on a guy like Joe Duffy. He's not a minus 400 fighter. Guy doesn't have a win in fucking 3 years. Alvarez is going to be a lot bigger in there. He's got a 4-inch. And to me, I see a lot of similarities between these two. And I'm taking this plus money, man. You can more than triple your money on this fight for a guy that hasn't won in 3 years. That's really what my life on a guy that's visibly bigger. So, we'll see what happens. He's an underdog for a reason, obviously, but got to make that money sometimes, baby. Chris?
I wasn't laughing at what you were saying. I was literally laughing to myself the whole time. I was trying to see if I had a picture on my phone, but I don't. Of UFC 217, I remember vividly Joe Duffy fighting James Vick, and we have 2 drunk Irish dudes yelling behind us, and Matt is yelling at them, chanting USA for James Vick. Drunk Matt standing back. And but yeah, that was a funny memory. But yeah, I think that the reason here is I don't know if money's swaying the line. That's a really steep line. I almost said James Vick. I do think Joe Duffy's going to win here. His boxing is really good. He's undefeated as a professional boxer, so he's got hands. He trains at TriStar with Faraz Sahabi, I believe. Still, I know he's a Canadian resident now, and a lot of the Irish guys make fun of him for being coming over from Irish MMA to Canada to train at TriStar. But anytime you work with Faraz Sahabi and you already have a undefeated boxing resume behind you, I definitely favor him here. He's got that win over Conor McGregor, like Mike said, which I think I don't know shit about like actually true gambling, but maybe that's swaying the line a little bit more. Do I think Joe Duffy's going to win? Yes. Do I think he should be, minus 400? Absolutely not. But with that being said, I'm straight up pick. I'm going to pick Joe Duffy.
Yeah, I picked Duffy as well, but I agree. It's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, Duffy shouldn't be minus 400, which is where he's at right now. And so do you take the value on the dog, Alvarez, because the line is ridiculous, even though you think Duffy's going to win? It's mixed martial arts. Anything can happen. But as a pick, Duffy, at the betting window, you'd be ridiculous to throw $400 or more on Duffy to win because I don't know, he's proven to, have extreme flaws in certain circumstances. So
I'm sure I'll be down by this point in the card and take Joe Duffy's line twice and be really pissed off at myself.
hey, shit happens, and I hope if that happens, I hope it wins for you for the sake of your wallet. But Duffy's going to be my pick. Up next, Grant Dawson, sizable favorite, I think around 250, going up against Nad Narimani.
So Grant Dawson missed weight pretty bad his last time out against the fuck was his name? Grant Minor, whatever.
Derek Minner.
Derek Minner, close enough. Nad Narimani got knocked the fuck out against Mike Grundy. Grant Dawson, I don't know, man. I think he thinks he's better than he really is. He's a wrestle boxer. His stand-up is solely to get the fight to the ground. He wins nearly all of his fights by sub. And I think he does win this fight. I think he just wears on Narimani. This fight is majority grappling as long as his ego doesn't get the best of him and he just tries to stand and bang with him. But again, I am hesitant here. I actually texted these two yesterday. I was like, do you guys think we finally see Grant Dawson slip up? But in my heart, I don't think this is the fight. But that's why they got to fight, right? We'll see what happens. But as of now, Grant Dawson, I'll probably sprinkle a submission bet in there for sure. Chris?
So I've been quoted on this podcast a couple times to say that I don't really care. Not that I don't really care, but I don't really weigh heavily what color your belt is in jiu-jitsu when coming into fights. But for someone like Grant Dawson, I believe he's a brown belt. And like Matt said, almost all of his wins are by submission. So obviously he excels greatly on the ground. Whereas I never pronounce his name right. Narimani. He's English, and you English guys usually, like Bisbing says all the time, he always makes the jokes that there's no wrestling over there in the UK. But I believe he trains with Team Alpha Male guys now, so he's clearly upped his wrestling since. But with that being said, I still do think that Grant Dawson, like Mike said or Matt said, if he doesn't let his ego get in the way, takes his fight to the ground and wins convincingly on the ground, whether it's a decision or a submission, little sprinkle prop bet on there. I did delete my DraftKings last night, so you will not see me betting anytime soon. I'm sure I'll get drunk and re-download it. But with that being said, Grant Dawson in this one for me.
Just out of curiosity, do you guys, this is just me, I try to just fade Team Alpha Male as a whole these days, dude. Like, their fighters don't fare well anymore.
It depends on the fighter, though. Feely's awesome.
Yeah, when I thought about it, he's the only one that comes to mind that I still would bet on. Outside of that, it feels like everyone else left.
Garbrandt, if he's still there, 50-50.
He's not there anymore, though. He's been with Mark Henry, though, for the last two fights or one fight.
His last fight.
Why do I feel like there was a stretch of time where Team Alpha Male was having a rough skid? I feel like that was like maybe a couple of years ago where they went through a really long patch of like a lot of losses.
100%.
So the history was once TJ left, there was actually like rumblings behind the scenes of Team Alpha Male, and Uriah Faber hired a lot of coaches. So a lot of the head coaches, like Justin Buchholz, lost his head coaching position because they're like, oh, there's not one head coach. You're the Muay Thai head coach, and you're the wrestling head coach. And Justin Buchholz is like, well, I was TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt's head coach. So now you even see that TJ and Justin Buchholz are getting along, where it was like that whole beef was going on, and Justin was so pro Cody. All that shit happened behind the scenes, and then they all had a little falling out. Not, Chris DeVarito, MMA Gossip drama alert over here, but that's what happened. And I think with that tension in there, guys like Cody fucking Garbrandt, who's supposed to be your next star, is like, well, now he was calling TJ a traitor for betraying Team Alpha Male. Now he's over here in New Jersey. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well. Chris, if anybody knows more about like the background of shit in mixed martial arts, it's fucking Chris right here. He knows
Thanks for calling me a loser.
That's why we're gossiping, man. That's why we're gossiping. But needless to say, this is not the fight that Grant Dawson loses, I don't think. Narimani, like, he's a little reckless on the feet. Like I think his only chance is to clip Dawson in like the first round or something. I remember when he fought Mike Grundy, he clipped Mike Grundy and had him hurt and just couldn't finish it. And then he got hit with like a shot and he went like and just like fell backwards. I don't think Narimani's very good at all, to be honest. But Grant Dawson all day. UFC wants him to win. I think it's pretty clear too. So he's gonna be my pick. Up next, Cadiz Ibragimov going up against Roman Dolidze.
Dude, don't worry about pronouncing his name. He doesn't even have a fucking picture on the UFC website. Anyway, I'm betting on the guy that doesn't have a picture on this UFC website for one reason and one reason only. Ibragimov has a very recent loss to Ed Herman, and that is all you need to know. Chris.
I'm passing on this one. This was one of the fights that I honestly, I don't like speaking, and this is a new thing I'm doing on the podcast, when I literally know nothing about either opponent. I'm not going to reiterate what I read online a couple days before to an audience. You could do the same thing that I'm going to do. I really don't like to speak on none of these, so I'm going to pass this one off to Mike.
Bro, pass. I'm going to go with Matt, too.
Yeah.
Like, if you're losing to Ed Herman at this point in his career, I mean, Ed Herman's tough, but he's, like, 100% beatable, you know, in every aspect. So, like, not touching this one. I'll do my fight tape study, look out for a pick on Saturday, but at this point, like, no pick, pass.
Ed Herman is literally only tough. That's the only word to describe Ed Herman. He's tough.
This other guy has 6 wins, and they're all by some sort of finish. So I'm hoping he gets out there and he's aggressive and he wins, because I'm probably still going to bet on the fight.
Absolutely. Okay, next fight. Exciting. Actually love this matchup very much. We got Askar Askarov, who is 90% deaf. Very cool. A lot of people don't know that. Going up against Alexander Pantoja, UFC vet, been around for a minute. Matt.
It's actually interesting you say that. So he probably doesn't give a shit that there's no fans. It's probably another day in the office. Anyway, I'm all over Pantoja in this. I did go back and forth a little bit just because Askarov, like, he's super aggressive. He's got some legit grappling chops, but for those who don't know, Pantoja's on this card for a reason. If that title fight doesn't happen, he's stepping in for whoever it is that falls off. He's going to get a title shot if he wins this fight. He can literally take this fight anywhere. He only has 2 losses in the UFC. One was his 3rd fight to Dustin Ortiz, who was at one point a legitimate gatekeeper. And the other was the guy that would be the belt, or would be the current champ if he made weight. In a crazy fight. If you guys haven't seen that, go back and watch that. That fight was wild. As for Askarov, he went to a draw with Moreno, who Pantoja beat twice, and beat Tim Elliott. Big fucking whoop. Definitely has the advantage in the wrestling department, I think, but everything else to me is Pantoja. Like, I think he finishes his fight any way he wants. Honestly, I think that Askarov could gas. He gassed in his last 2 fights. In the 3rd round, he started to slow down a little bit. And Pantoja, he's not active that much. That's why I feel like you don't really hear his name that much, but he's really fucking good, and I'm really pumped to see him back in there Saturday night. Chris?
Yeah, I'm a big Alexandre Pantoja fan. He is legit. I remember watching him on Tough. He was on the flyweight season with Joe B and Cejudo as the coaches. What was I going to say? So with that being said, like, he trained on, I believe he was on Team Cejudo. So, you know, he got the little bit of Cejudo rub and learned from him a lot. I remember, like I said, I watched the whole season. I watched every Tough. I'm a loser. But he was the number 1 ranked fighter on the show. Like, you know how they do like the little tournament bracket? He was ranked number 1. So he was the favorite to win the show. He beat Brandon Moreno on the show, who all 3 of us are super high on. And he beat Brandon Moreno in the UFC. He beat someone else really good on the show too. It'll come to me in a minute. But he did really good on the show. He's done really well in the UFC. Second, what Matt just said, I saw an interview and Megan O'Leary said that the reason he's on this card is Joe B would not sign unless Figueiredo had a backup, like there was a backup contingency for him if he missed weight and then this whole COVID thing. And it looked like for a day or 2 that Pantoja was going to get the fight. So, I mean, with that being said, haven't even mentioned Askar Askarov yet, who's legit as fuck. Huge prospect in the UFC. I mean, us 3 know about him. He's on everyone's radar. Mike's, 90% deaf. That's Mike's favorite fact to spit out. We talk about it every time we're talking about Askarov on this podcast. But he he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Like I was just looking at him today, you know, just doing a little further digging. He's got nothing. Like that's crazy. I think that's someone that you totally push. He's legit. He beat the shit out of Tim Elliott. Who else? Who did he go to a draw to? Was that Brandon Moreno?
Yeah.
Moreno,
Went to
yeah.
draw Moreno. So there you go. MMA math. MMA math is MMA math. He went to a draw with Moreno, and Pantoja beat him convincingly twice. I guess what the fuck I'm trying to say here is I'm high on Pantoja, and I think he's going to win.
I was on Askarov actually in the last fight, and I was on him in the Brandon Moreno. This is before I hopped on the Moreno train. So like he really, really impressed me. Excuse me. Can't speak right now. He impressed the hell out of me with both of those fights. But you know, Pantoja has that experience, man, and he really hasn't lost a step. Like you watched that fight with Figueiredo, it was a banger, man, and he won his next fight after that too. So he still got it, even though he took some really big shots. But my point being is like his counters are sick. His striking is definitely going to be better than Askarov's. He hits hard as hell. He's great on the ground. He's been in there with the best guys of the best. Like I think the line is appropriate. I think he does deserve to be the favorite that he is. The only way I really see Askarov finishing or winning this fight is like maybe slowing Pantoja down and pushing him up against the fence or something like that. I don't think he's going to be able to have like as much success on the ground as Askar maybe thinks he does because, you know, Pantoja beat as we said, beat Moreno twice, and then Moreno goes out there with Askarov and it's pretty much like even on the ground, you know, and that's not necessarily Moreno's strong suit. He definitely wants to keep it standing. So I don't know. I think all paths lead to Pantoja winning this fight, and I'm locking him up right now. And I already put a parlay in with him on DraftKings like right before we got on this podcast. So like I'm hyped up on him. I'm excited to see him back in the octagon. I feel like we haven't seen him in a minute, so I'm excited to see. This is a great fight. I'm just excited for this one as like the main event, to be honest.
Mikey parlays, by the way, dude. Shout out. I mean, if you want to give the viewers a little parlay advice, you're the one always hitting them. What did you hit for last night, by the way? We didn't even mention it.
So it was the reason why the value got so fucking high is because Lazez plus 275 drove those odds up. But I had Chimaev, I had obviously Lazez, I had Bukaki, and I had Jack Shore, and it just
That's
went
awesome, dude. There's no way people don't call Bukowskis Mr. Bukaki behind his back. There's no way.
We're not. You think we're the first ones to call him? With 27-year-old men over here calling him Mr. Bukaki. There's definitely 13-year-old MMA fans. They're like Bukaki.
Because Bisping messed up Michaelis' name last night. I was like, dude, say Bukaki.
Yeah, he messed up so bad. He's like, all right, I'm just gonna call him Michaelis.
Andreas.
Andreas. Yeah. Okay, up next, kind of downgrade from this fight. Like I don't know how the Pantoja fight isn't higher up. Ariane Lipski, who I think the UFC has been trying to push, but she's just been like not doing so well. Going up against Luana Carolina. Matt.
Yeah, I'm on Lipski in this one. She came into the UFC with some steam, didn't fare well, but you know, to her credit, the UFC really didn't do her any favors with her first fight with Calderwood, who's looked, you know, above average lately. And then who'd she lose to? Fucking Molly McCann? Yeah, of course. But yeah, I'm definitely favoring Lipski in this. I'm hoping that she does what, you know, the UFC thought she was going to do and just beat the living fucking shit out of Carolina. That's what she is. She's a kickboxer, and hopefully she just sticks out on the outside, picks her shots, and walks all the way to a decision, because I'm sure I will take the over in this fight too. Chris?
If I have to make a pick, I will, but I think that the over is a fantastic bet in this fight. Both these girls are not good. I think this is the third time this fight has been trying to be booked. I don't even know what the fuck I'm trying to say here. This is the third time they're trying to book this fight. COVID just messed up things a couple times, and now they're finally doing it. I will fade Lipski anytime she's minus money. I'm literally just going to take her opponent. With that being said, Luana's best win is Priscilla Cachoeira, which is not that great of a win. But Ariane Lipski is the decisionator loser. I think she has a 500 record, and I would definitely fade her with if she's favored. So I'm going to go with Carolina on this one.
I don't know. I don't care about this fight. It sounds
not at all,
bad, man. But I don't know. I'm probably not going to touch this one at all. I think the UFC might have a little bit of stock still left in Lipski, which is why they're kind of giving her this opponent here. So, but like like you said, if your best win, for Luana is Cachoeira, then you haven't proved anything yet, and Lipski hasn't proved anything yet. So, in this particular matchup, you can't bet the favorite because it's Ariane Lipski, but you can't bet the underdog because there's not enough value on it. So stay clear. Don't touch this one. Just hope that there's exciting. Maybe there is a finish, but like you said, it's gonna go the distance, 100%.
Would you rather bet on Lipski in this fight or bet on me flipping a quarter?
I bet on
Dude, this is one of those fights where, like, I'll tell my boys, like, oh, we're running low on beer. This is the fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, I hope I'm wrong. And, shout out to these girls taking the fight, short notice. Well, I guess it's not really that short notice because they were supposed to fight each other. But anyway, short notice, Fight Island, whole nine, but no interest.
Yep, nothing.
It's hard to sell these to casuals. You know what I mean? Like, my friends don't want to watch this fight.
All right, up next, we got the ever popular, the ever exciting Mark Diakiese going up against Rafael Fiziev. Matt.
Man, I'm pumped for this fight. I love Diakiese. I'm probably in the minority in that. So, dude, I thought Diakiese, when he first got in the UFC, was super fucking exciting fighter. Like, who did he finished somebody with a ridiculous walk-off KO? It's Pacquiao or somebody. He was third win in the UFC.
Timo or
Yeah. Won his first three UFC fights. Then matchmakers just said, all right, let's give this guy a jump up in competition. Immediately lost all three to Drakkar Klose, Dan Hooker, which, that looking back on it, it's fucking Dan Hooker now, and Nate Happerest. And then they brought him back down to earth, and he started mixing in wrestling, which I found very interesting. Landed 4 of 7 takedowns against Lando, landed 6 of 8 against Joe Duffy. And that's why I'm favoring him in this fight against, how do you say his name, Mike? Fiziev? How the fuck?
I think it's Brazilian, so Rafael Fiziev.
So Fiziev, probably just pronounced it wrong again, beat Alex White, whoop the fucking do, rite of passage, and then got destroyed by Magomed Mustaev, whatever, dude. He Mustafayev threw a spinning back fist and put his lights out. It was crazy. I vividly remember. So Rafael has only seen 6 of his 8 wins have finished. 6 of his 8 fights, have all ended in the first round. So I'm banking on Diakiese to mix in his wrestling, wear on Rafael a little bit, pull him into some deep water, act like the vet that he is, because he is a vet compared to what Rafael is. He's been in there with better guys. I guarantee Rafael probably hits harder, but I can guarantee Diakiese has better overall striking. He's going to mix up his strikes more. He's going to look more fluid, and I think he just outclasses him in every aspect of MMA, grappling, wrestling, everything. I'm all over Diakiese in this fight. He's probably going to be my fucking lock. Do not screw me, Chris.
I'm a big Diakiese guy too, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and hear me out before you fucking get all over me. I feel like I was a bobblehead during when Matt was talking because I agree with everything he was saying. But I'm gonna compare Diakiese to Aljamain Sterling. The reason being, they were both hype trains that were undefeated, on an absolute roll, doing great, looking good, being flashy, doing their thing, and they both got humbled. Not in a bad way, Diakiese lost. I think his first loss was a split decision. It was to Drakkar Klose, and it was a good fight. I think that he did lose that fight, rightfully so. But both of them, the reason I'm comparing to Aljo is because due to losses, they got significantly better. They both went on a little skid, and like Matt said, Diakiese started mixing in wrestling, and Aljo started working on his striking, and they both got significantly better and learned from their losses. Like young guys that genuinely learned from their losses and picked it up. Granted, in the one thing to play devil's advocate for myself, Diakiese went from fighting no ones and being 12-0 to fighting Drakkar Klose, Hooker, and who's his third loss? I'm not sure off the top of my head, but
Happerest.
On Happerest, that's right. And he lost. Then he fought a little bit lower level competition in Joe Duffy and Lando Venata. Granted, not low level. They both have their own experience. But with that being said, he beat 2 low. So, it was like a little spike. But anyway, with all that being said, I just wanted to give Diakiese his props. I remember when he beat Joe Duffy, he was so happy. I think he was crying in the octagon of pure happiness. But anyway, it shows that he put in the work. He's working on becoming a more complete fighter, and I'm really excited to what he has to deliver. And if you couldn't guess, I'm going to Casey on this one.
One last point before we get to Mike. Forgot to bring this up. Rafael had both his ACL and MCL repaired in November. That's only 8 months. You never know, man. You never know. Especially
Tony
with
Ferguson style.
Yeah, especially with this whole COVID thing. Who knows how rehab has been these last 3-4 months? It could play a factor. It's just something to know. You know what I mean? Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I know I say this all the time. I've said it 3 times already on this card, but I think the UFC is like behind the Casey 100% in this fight, and they're going to give him a winnable match. I just think that Fiziev is like a significant step down in competition, so I don't understand why the line is as close as it is. Matt, off the top of your head, do you know what the line is?
Yeah, dude, is water wet? He's minus.
Wait,
minus 150 plus 135.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the odds makers are seeing, or if I don't know what it opened up at, but I think there's like absolutely tremendous value in the Casey.
Usually when you see line like this, it's called bait. I just knowing from experience, if Rafael wins, just remember I said that. So when odds don't make sense, there's usually a reason. That being said, I'm still betting the Casey.
Yeah, that scares me a little bit, but all signs. I mean, like Casey looks so crisp on the feet, man. His striking is just so fucking fresh. Yeah, I'm picking Casey. I'm gonna do a little bit more digging on Fiziev to see maybe why the line is what it is. But like, if you beat Alex White, congratulations. I have a Honda Civic in my front yard. Like, what is it? I have 2 dogs. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing. Anyway, next fight. Jack the Joker Hermansson going up against Kelvin Gastelum. Very intriguing matchup. The line, I think, just changed from Gastelum was a slight favorite at like minus 130, something like that. And now I think it's like a minus 112 pick 'em. So at least it is on DraftKings. So interested to see what you guys have to say about this one, Matt.
Dude, this is one of the hardest fights I've had to cap in a long time, man. I mean, there's just so much to say about it, and I'm going Gastelum. I think I'm going to go heavy on Gastelum. He's just been in there with so many better guys recently. Like he beat. I mean, Hermansson beat Jacare. Like on it, it sounds terrible, but at this point, big fucking whoop, dude. Like he's gassed. He's done. And for like, I know there's going to be casuals out there that are going to be pointing out like, oh, Hermansson's so much taller. He's long. Gastelum's dealt with it his whole fucking career. He went 5 rounds with Izzy. He knows how to get inside. He's lightning fast on his feet still, and he hits like a fucking Mack truck. And he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like, I trust him everywhere in this fight that Hermansson could potentially want to take it. And, Kelvin's Gastelum it's held up very well in recent bouts too. So if he wants to take this fight into deep waters with Hermansson, somewhere, if you correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't seen Hermansson go that deep into a fight at all, right? Like, the David Branch fight ended very early. Cannonier didn't go all.
Jacare went 5-5s.
Okay, yeah, and he won that, but still, like, I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm on Gastelum in this, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won by knockout. It sounds so crazy because he is so much smaller, but I just trust his ability to get inside on Hermansson and get this fight to where he wants it, because that Gastelum is the one that's going to push the pace. It's just what he does, and that's why he knows how to get inside. He knows, all right, I'm the shorter guy. I got to be dictating this fight. If I want this fight on the ground, I'm taking it there. If I want to box, it's because of me. Like, he knows that. And as long as he can implement that style early and often, I think he'll be fine. I got on the Jack Hermansson train just as quickly as I got off of it. Right now, I'm off of it. Chris?
I hear you, man. I think a lot of people are doubting Kelvin in this fight. I see a lot of people on Twitter saying, like, how the hell is Gastelum a favorite? And maybe they're right. There's something to it, clearly, because the line, Mike just said, moved from 130 to a pick 'em. But I do believe that Hermansson, when this fight was first announced, I remember seeing the OddsShark tweet, and Hermansson was a favorite, about 120. So there's been a lot of movement on the line back and forth. I think I see this fight as a fucking pick 'em. I think that if it goes to ground, Kelvin could be in some serious trouble. But he's been there. He's been there plenty of times. He's fought a fucking who's who. The one sad thing I will say about Kelvin, like to what Matt said, is yes, he's going to be the shorter, stockier guy in there, which he's been his whole career. Kelvin Gastelum, get a fucking nutritionist. Like Mike, he was working with Mike Dolce and he was doing so good. Dude, you can literally, people were talking about him being the champ at 170. He looked so good. He went to 185, beat Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy's basically a fucking light heavyweight. You know what I mean? Like, he's good. His boxing is really good. I know Hermansson's coming off a loss. By the way, side note, what the hell's going on with Cannonier? Has anyone heard? He got surgery, right?
I don't know. That was a brutal loss, though.
That was a brutal loss. But that being said, man, I honestly could say with, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. With transparency, I'm picking Kelvin more as a fan. I don't know if that's me picking him, but I really believe in Kelvin. I think Kelvin's really good. His fight with Izzy was insane. His boxing is so good. He's got good wrestling enough to, I think, hold off Hermansson and box him up on the feet. So I'm going Gastelum on this one.
So I think, first of all, about Hermansson, I think all the matchups that he's been in, that he's won, were perfect matches for him. Like when you think of like David Branch, perfect matchup for him. When you think of Souza, okay, Souza's doesn't have the best stand-up, great jiu-jitsu. Hermansson's a little bit better on the feet, so he won a decision. It was like the perfect timeline for him. But then when he went against Cannonier, and I got to toot my own horn here because I was on Cannonier at a plus 225 in that fight.
We argued that to the death, dude. I remember that. We argued that to the death.
To the death. But my whole thing was like, all right, I don't think Hermansson can get it to the ground because Cannonier is strong as an ox at 185, man. He's just strong as fuck, and he hits hard as fuck, and that's exactly what happened. In this particular fight, I do think that Hermansson stands a significant chance to bring this to the ground. He's got to close the distance and maybe put him up against the cage, go for a takedown. We've seen Kelvin Gastelum get submitted before by Chris Weidman. No, there's nothing wrong with that. Weidman's a freak on the ground, but nonetheless, he is susceptible to that. I do think the line is completely appropriate. It is a pick 'em for a reason. I do think Hermansson stands a really good chance of winning this fight via submission. But if it stays on the feet, Gastelum's stand-up is like so good. Like if you haven't watched that Izzy fight, then you're not watching this podcast if you haven't watched that fight. So I don't know. It's so freaking hard. I really do think like the odds makers are on point with this right now. I off the top of my head, I don't even know if I can make a pick. I really can't. Because like if I say Gastelum, I'm going to hate myself for not saying Hermansson. And if I say Hermansson, I'm going to hate myself for not saying Gastelum, man. So I don't know. You guys, Matt, you're on Gastelum, and Chris, you're on Gastelum as well, right?
I picked as a fan. If I more so, I can't get my heart out of it, if that makes sense. So it is. I am being swayed by the fan in me, yeah. Right, but I did pick Gastelum.
Just to go against you guys, I'm going to go with Hermansson right now, and then we'll see what happens come Saturday.
I think I'm just taking because I'm a fan, and I've seen Kelvin fight so many times. I mean, I've seen Hermansson fight so many times too, but I think as a fan, I think that Kelvin can at least get back to his feet. If he's going to get, I think it's inevitable that he does get taken down, but I think that he's got a good enough takedown defense, and his striking is significantly better.
And also remember, as you guys saw at the Rivera fight this weekend, being a shorter guy with a lower center of gravity really helps defending takedowns, so that could be to his advantage too. And another thing I looked at in this fight is you look at his 4 most recent wins: Jacare, David Branch, Mir Sharp, Dallas Latis. None of those guys are strikers first. None of them. None. Then you look at his 2 recent losses. Granted, one of them's not so recent, Cannonier and Santos. To me, I think Cannonier and Santos fall more in the category of guys that just absolutely fucking crack with their strikes, which makes me think of Kelvin. He hasn't really fared well against guys like that. Well, he got knocked out by both of them. So, again, that is like MMA math to the extreme and honestly more theoretical than anything. But to me, maybe that's his kryptonite. Maybe he's not that great against guys that have a massive stand-up advantage. And I do think Kelvin, even though he's shorter, I think he's better boxing, and it's without question he hits harder. So, maybe he doesn't take damage well. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, just trying to convince myself, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so close. I do like Gastelum's hashtag. He's still on a mission for gold. So like, I do think he still has that drive in him
He
because
should
like,
be on a mission to make weight.
yeah, you said it, Chris, yourself, man. He is. I really do think he's championship caliber. If he puts if he's on point on any given night, he can beat any fighter on the roster. I really do think that. But he's just like had a lot of setbacks. But I really do think those setbacks only make him better. So I don't know. Maybe I'm leaning. Maybe I'm leaning Gastelum now. But as of right now, I'm going to stay with Hermansson. Wait till Saturday when the picks are posted. I might just keep them both out though. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, Mike. I'm significantly more excited for this in the main event. Significantly.
Word. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just get to this main event. We have discussed this one actually on a podcast way back when they first fought. So I don't think it's going to go any different. Deiveson Figueiredo, big sizable favorite. He was the underdog in the first fight. And Matt, you were all over that. I think I was on Joe B. Me and Chris were. So props to you on that. But Matt, what do you think?
Same outcome, dude. Figueiredo's bigger. For flyweight, he fucking cracks. Like, he hits hard as shit. He probably the hardest puncher in the division. I think you're gonna get a similar outcome, man. Like, it's not like Benavidez is some young guy. I like, he's gonna get hit, and I just don't see what he could do differently. I don't see what he's not gonna just magically progress his career at this point. Like, he is what he is, and unfortunately, I think his time's up. I have Deiveson by probably knockout again. Chris?
It's hard to unsee that first fight. You know what I mean? A lot of people, I mean, granted, Ariel Helwani being one of them, so take that with a grain of salt, are really weighing that headbutt a lot, though. A lot. And Joe B's like, I'm not making excuses. Like, I was rocked off that headbutt. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Again, I don't know if this is the fan of me, but with that being said, I think Joe B won the first round of that fight. Do you guys disagree? I think he totally won the first round of that fight. I think that was only the second time in his entire career he's ever been knocked out. I know the MMA gods don't give a fuck, but Joe B is due for a belt at some fucking point, right? Like, Joe B has to win a belt. He seems really confident. I like the way he is this week. Joe B was out of his quarantine in Abu Dhabi before Figueiredo even arrived, before he even left, I think. So that says a lot. This is no joke. I think the line is a stretch, but I think that's because of the first fight. With that being said, I know I'm swayed with my picks. I'm not a fucking handicapper, and I know you guys don't say you are either. So all these guys on MMA Twitter that think they're handicappers, we're not trying to pretend to be that. We're fans, and we understand the UFC. Like, oh, you run the Contender Series, or you're trying to get the push or the rub. We understand how all that works. We're trying to pass it on to casuals. With that being said, I think Joe B, I really do think that he can win this fight here. I don't think that Figueiredo's ever gone 5 rounds before. I don't think he's ever gone past the 3rd round in any fight ever. I don't think he's ever been in a 5-round fight. And I think he relies too heavily on the knockout, especially them being flyweights. Granted, do I see a way that he flatlines Joe B again? Absolutely. But I think Joe B is ready to go 5-5s. I think he's more prepared. I think he'll mix in some wrestling maybe. And I can see him pulling out the dub here. I'm going with Joe B, baby. Underdog money.
Wow, I did not see that coming, Chris. Props to you.
Yeah.
I love Joe B. Me personally, I can't get behind him again after that first fight. I mean, like, hey man, you get a headbutt, it's a fight. It's gonna happen, man. You got rocked from it and you got finished from it. So like, there's no shame in that. I don't think that it should be talked about as much as it is. I think Figueiredo won the fight. I don't see, like, the headbutt or not. He won the fight. I really don't think there's much discrepancy there. But one thing I want to talk about is, like, Figueiredo is really late to come to Abu Dhabi, because of the whole COVID scare and this, that, and the other thing. So him cutting the massive amount of weight that he does, on top of the fact that he's traveling, like, super, like, recently, like maybe a day or two ago, right? Very recently. And he's cutting weight. And he has to adjust to the time zone and jet lag and this, that, and the other thing. He has a lot of obstacles to overcome to step into that cage. And Joe B's been there. Joe B is the veteran of all veterans. So I do think he has a huge advantage there. And another thing, playing devil's advocate to myself, is, like, in that first fight, man, Joe B was, like, swinging with his eyes closed, like, getting into the pocket and just swinging and then trying to get out of the pocket, man. He doesn't normally fight like that, man. That makes me think that he knows of how strong and how hard Figueiredo hits. Like he wanted to make it seem like he wasn't nervous, but like I think he was a little bit nervous of Figueiredo's power. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a mind game for Benavidez. So I think both of them have a lot of mental obstacles to overcome stepping into this cage on Saturday. More mental than physical. Figueiredo, obviously, with the weight cut, is very physical, and I'm excited to see how that happens at the weigh-ins tomorrow. But I'm going to stick with Figueiredo. If all goes well at the weigh-ins, definitely Figueiredo. If he looks like shit at the weigh-ins and he's like, stepping on the scale naked and can't hold his head up, then maybe I'll change things up. But I don't know. I just think the first fight was very telling, and I don't really put much stock into that headbutt.
The first time around, he didn't miss weight by a little bit. I think he missed weight by 3 pounds over championship weight. So that's not a little bit to cut. And like I said, with this whole travel shit, all I've heard, like Jimmy Rivera talking about it last night, how much of a toll it put on him. Cody Stamen said the same thing, just throw 2 names out there. How much of a toll, the travel and the time. Bisping and Felder are fucking commentating and they're yawning, and they've been there. They've been settled in there. They're yawning on the post-fight press conference, you know what I mean? Post-fight show. So it's like, dude, that takes a toll. Figueiredo already had a hard time making weight, and he's going to be there. I think I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a good weight cut for him at all. If he misses weight, I'm going to fucking lose it. I would literally be like, yo, fuck you. Askarov, here's your fucking show and win money. Pantoja, you're fighting for the belt. Literally. Someone's got to win the belt in that division.
Absolutely. And I'm so pumped that there is a backup plan, a contingency plan. It's perfect, especially Pantoja, who amazing backup. Anything last thoughts, guys, on this? Awesome. I'm glad we shortened it up a little bit. I think that was a great run through for the recap. That was great for the breakdown of this card, especially because there's a couple of newbies, a couple of low-level fights we're not really entirely sure of. But hey, man, I love doing this shit with you guys. I love you guys.
I was just going to say, dude, it literally feels like I look at my clock sometimes during you look at the fucking clock every once in a while. I'm like, holy shit. Because I could I feel like I'm just getting started. We're going to start texting in 10 minutes. So I love doing this shit with you guys. Thank you guys for doing this. Another Thursday in the fucking books, baby. You know the usual. Like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe. I think it was 73% of people who are watching this right now are not subscribed. Subscribe. Dude, it's free to do. It takes 1 click of a button, and it helps us out greatly. iTunes, spread the love. 5-star reviews all across the board. Thank you, and keep it up, baby.
Yo, one last thing. For any of you fuckers that watch and listen to our podcast but don't follow our Instagram, again, I'm not saying it yet because you got to tune in next week. Not saying it. We got a big guest coming on the podcast next Tuesday, like 5 or 6 p.m. 5, right?
6 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m. Eastern, so it's going to be on iTunes by probably no later than 8 o'clock that night. So get ready, guys. Big step for us. Shout out to Mike for getting the damn thing done with him. Couldn't be more excited.
All right, everybody. Be well. God bless mixed martial arts. Enjoy the fights on Saturday, and we'll see you next week.